This is another part of our podcast. Yeah. Basically, Kevin and I get on microphone to talk about branding, culture, and wind up just talking about food for.
That sounds great.
Yeah,
I'm all in.
That's what we.
I don't typically go on TikTok or YouTube to find food recommendations.
Yeah.
They find you.
They'll usually find me, but I'll also strategically create these like communities on text messages with like close friends that I trust who are like, hey, you got to check this out. And that's usually like the best thing to do. Like I used to run pizza tours with some of my best friends.
Oh,
we would roll like 20 people deep.
Okay.
We would choose a specific region of Manhattan or Brooklyn
okay.
or whatever, and we would go around to at least 4 different spots. And I think my favorite one would be Carroll Gardens area, and then eventually end at L&B Spumoni Gardens.
Yeah.
So there's a bunch of really great spots. Of course, there's Lucali.
Yep.
Crazy
F&F.
long line. F&F.
F&F is fire.
F&F is so good.
I've never had it.
Highly
I know.
recommend.
I'm really fucking up.
You got to get down there.
I haven't had the industry. I'm really like I'm slacking on my pizza game. I know. I haven't had F&F. I've actually never even been to what's it called, the Lucali.
Damn. I've never been there, but
yeah, I just don't want to wait. I guess this is what it comes down to. I don't want to wait for my pizza.
Yeah. So what we do is we go to a bunch of we go to Lucali first or second. We put our name in, and then we go to all the other places around there. And by the time that's ready, we eat that. Then we all drive down collectively at L&B Spumoni Gardens.
Which I think
That's
for
fantastic.
me, as someone who loves a square slice, I think that's my favorite pizza in New York. I still think, for my money, I don't know if it's the best, but if someone showed up with an L&B Spumoni box, I think I would be the happiest. 3, 2, 1. Kevin, what's up, buddy?
what's up, dude?
How is this? What is this hat that you got
So
going on?
only New York.
Okay, hot dog.
Yeah, a little hat exchange.
What?
Yeah, a little swap with my friend.
Wow.
Some Bengals merch for only New York hat.
Kevin is a hatsman. I don't know if you know this. We should probably do the intro first. Ritesh Gupta is here. I got a bio. You ready for it?
Yeah, which I'm really curious what you read.
Right from your website.
Right?
Oh, you're reading right from the website?
Directly. Wyden and Kennedy alum. I love your bio. Doesn't even like have a hello. I am Ritesh. It's just like, let's get to the fucking facts here. Wyden Kennedy alumni, former director of 2 Shark Tank companies. No mention of what the companies are. We don't need to get into that.
We'll get there later.
The founder of Useful School, which we're here to talk about, and we definitely want to know more about. Design director for Hyperact and volunteer for Where Are the Black Designers? Freelance clients include New York Times, Working Not Working. Designer, UX, UI, production, strategy, art direction, copywriting, DEI, media and communications planning, and PR. That is a fuck ton of jobs.
Renaissance man.
Yeah, a Renaissance man, an optimistic Indian American, they with a soft spot for mission-driven organizations. He can design your next brand identity, website, app. He teaches, leads, and mentors others to do the same. Welcome to the show, Front and Center.
Yo, thank you. Dude, I feel like that was like an ad read.
Yeah.
Like that was really good.
That was
Yeah,
your
yeah.
ad for you.
Get 40% off your next client project
Yeah.
using the code Ritesh Gupta.
No, not 40%. No.
40%. I mean, 15% maybe. Yeah, higher. For higher.
Maybe like $5. Maybe like $5 off.
Yeah. so much there. 2 Shark Tank companies. You do or do not want to put them on blast?
No, I'm super down to talk about them.
Yeah.
It was really fun to work there.
Can you
For
talk
both
to
of
us a little bit about like do you love Shark Tank?
Huge fan.
Huge
Yeah.
fan.
Huge fan of Shark Tank. I basically got those 2 gigs by watching the airings, the live airings, and then literally the following day, like literally on a Saturday morning, emailing them being like, I want to work with you. I think you need a lot of help.
Yeah, it's
Would
funny.
you be
A
down?
lot of those brands are, especially in the early days. I think now they feel more fully fleshed, and I actually like it less. I think a lot of the brands are coming to the show and they don't necessarily feel like startups out of the back of someone's like apartment, and more like, hey, we're a 3-year-old company that has investment money, and like Gia was on the show, and I think they're very much out here. But I feel like in those early days, like a lot of the people that were coming on the show were quite literally like teams of 1 or 2, and they were like, we need money for not just like an investment or like a Series A or Series B, like just like quite literally like be a founding person on this team.
Yeah, I think that's like way more interesting. Like when the company's like imperfect and like needs some sort of like help. It's just like more interesting. It's more dramatic, blah, 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 blah. The cringiest thing I feel like I see on the show is where they say to the sharks like, oh, we're just trying to complete this like round. We already have like 10 other investors already lined up. You're the last one. Like all that BS. Like I'm not a fan.
Who's your favorite shark?
I like a few of them. My favorite one is different than who the most useful ones are.
Okay.
So I do want to preface with that.
Robert Herjavec.
He's largely useless.
Yeah, he does seem like to be the worst one.
What ends up happening is Mark Cuban will sit out for a little while, and then Robert will make an offer, and then the entrepreneur will say no, and then Mark will say, I'll take that deal, and then you'll just swoop right underneath Robert.
Yeah.
Interesting thing about Robert is he got big in cybersecurity, and there's nearly zero startups that go onto the show that are cybersecurity.
Yeah, he's like
related.
the tech guy, but you're right. Like his tech knowledge is about cybersecurity. He doesn't know shit about anything. And then sort of most of his like, brand on the show is like he's the adventurous one because he like has a life in which he does things that involve moving his body. I think. Like where Mark Cuban doesn't seem to, outside of owning a basketball team, he doesn't seem to get outside much.
Yeah. Let me come back to Mark because Mark is an interesting anecdote.
Okay, yeah.
I really like Damon John.
Okay.
He's one of my favorites. I wish he got a little bit more airtime, but he typically doesn't. And I like that he's like, he started FUBU and like all these things and like knows licensing. Like I dig that a lot.
Yeah.
He's very funny too. I feel like he like keeps it real a lot of times because I think
fun.
the show can like get into this like very sort of like bubble of startups and money and bullshit. And he's like, he brings it back to like human real world thing, whereas he's like, you're asking for fucking $2 million for 10% of this thing that's bullshit. Like I feel like he does keep it real.
Right.
One thing that I think is worth noting is like you and I both, while watching Shark Tank maybe like 10 plus years ago, I had a similar thought, was like, how do I get involved with design, helping these brands?
Right.
I had a different idea, which yours was much more financially probably rewarding. My idea was to make a blog, like back in the like one topic Tumblr days, and it was like I would rebrand a contestant, or I guess someone that came on the show and like needed help, and basically I would do like a brand new like under consideration before and after, where I would just basically non-solicited rebrands.
Right.
And I think I made it to a total of like 3 of them.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, no, I
Cool,
did
congrats.
a ton of work. But it was one of my half-baked ideas, which was similar to yours, but yours was much more productive and better for you, which is like actually reach out to the company and be like, hey, you need help. I'm available for hire, where I was just going to do it for free and hope that like someone caught on and was like, oh, that's really nice. Actually, look what you've done for my chewing tobacco brand or something like that. And I reach out to me.
I think you're hitting on something that I've had in the back of my mind for Useful School for a while. And we're kind of doing this already, where we actually just work with like the venture capitalist or the angel, and we just get hired by them to like brand the companies that we'd want to brand. Right. So, and I think that's where I feel like Mark and Lori are really powerful, where they will essentially be like, all right, you need some help. I'm going to put you into like my system engine and my system and have like my brand team work on this. I'll have like, we'll get you on the commercials, like blah, 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 blah. I think that's why Mark and Lori are the most useful.
And that's I feel like that's really helpful for the students, I would imagine, right? Like, I don't know. I feel like so much of design school is like make up a fake barber shop and like da 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 da. But like there's thousands of businesses, real barber shops that need help with design. So if you can actually bring those companies in and have students working on real world projects, it's so much more useful, pun intended there, for the students and also for the businesses. So talk to us a little bit about what Useful School is, because that's your main job amongst all these other jobs.
So Useful School is the world's first pay what you can online school for people of color. We specialize in design, but we're quickly outgrowing that. Like, so for example, in the fall, we have a bunch of classes that like don't just appeal to just designers.
Mm-hmm. So when did you start the Useful School?
A couple years ago. I started it when I was at this company called Gannett, when I was essentially running like a kind of like an incubator of sorts. And I was doing that on the nights and weekends. Then I came over to Hyperact. D-Roy and the rest of the team like needed some help. And I was like, absolutely, I'm super down. Let me do it. I'll continue doing Useful School on the nights and weekends. And then I was like, all right, Useful School is growing really, really big. Like I'm gonna pursue that like full time.
And so how do people sign up for Useful School, or like how do they get involved on the student level, or even if you want to be like involved as a company, a brand, a teacher?
I think there's a few ways. Of course, if you're a student, like just check out, or a potential student, just check out our list of classes we have. We have currently 5 classes that we're teaching in the fall around branding, product design, decolonization, financial wellness. But we have a whole list of classes we're already thinking about already that are on our application as well. And if you're interested in like becoming like a partner or a sponsor or whatever, like super down, just like email me, ritesh@usefulschool.com. And if there's like, I need a lot of help. Like I'm trying to hire as many people, including the students, to help me out with this thing. It is a little lonely, like being a kind of a solopreneur, I guess, and kind of like running this thing myself. So I try my best, because I'm a huge people person. I try my best to bring in as many people to help me with like all these different types of projects and stuff like that.
Yeah. So is it pretty easy to like build a school from the ground up and then design the entire curriculum?
Yeah, it's super easy. I think what was interesting is a couple Thanksgivings ago, I was like, I'm going to launch a school in mid-December, no matter what.
That's pretty bold.
So I basically gave myself like 3 weeks or so to just launch something and just announce it to like my friends and family.
Just do it.
Put
it out there.
And so that forced me to make like really key decisions. I was like, all right, what can the curriculum look like? Well, I have to create a class that like probably I could teach and like that I know really well. So like, all right, let's do product design stuff. Great. Okay, let's figure out the branding. Well, I know how to do that. Let's do some branding on that. And like, let's build a website. Let's announce it, right? So it was like these like very like specific things that like I just was able to do once I just gave myself like a very specific target. Setting up the company and all that kind of stuff was actually quite easy.
Mm-hmm.
The hardest thing I think has been and continues to be just like running it just by myself and not drowning in opportunity, right? Like not going too spreading my wings too far and having like this kind of like grind mindset, like this alpha grind, sigma grind set type of thing that's really toxic, that can be really difficult for a lot of solo entrepreneurs, that where it's just like, I've just gotten better and better about just knowing when to stop my work and watching a TV show. For example, right now I'm watching like Money Heist.
Good. What network?
Netflix. The
Netflix
network.
The Netflix network. I've heard of Netflix. Let me look this up. Money Heist. It's a thriller. It's like a drama.
It's Spanish. It's fantastic.
Subtitles?
There are subtitles. Highly recommend that. Never dub.
Okay.
Never dub.
Question for you about the Useful School.
Mhm.
No physical location, all online.
All completely remote. It's all completely remote. Right now, we're serving adults that are only in the U.S. I would love to appeal to and continue growing our applicants, and like we have like a lot in all over the world, but right now it's just purely just the U.S. That's just our focus right now.
Got it. Dream state 5 years from here. Do you have a physical location of the Useful School or
Dream
something?
state? Yeah, I have two. Actually, 5 years is actually a little far. It's like a little hard for me to think that far.
I'm with you.
But if I were to try to think that far, it would be opening up a K through 12 school.
Damn.
For the kids.
I would want to do what I've heard time and time again is a lot of people don't know what the fuck design is like really early on. It's really important to like expose people and encourage them to pursue these types of things. So I would love to start with like after school classes, something like that for like high school students, and then go younger and younger.
Cool.
That would be sweet. I don't know how much work is involved in that, and I just won't know until I actually try it, but that'd be awesome. And I think also another thing would be having some sort of physical location or physical locations, and then also just expanding beyond, like continue to expand beyond design classes.
Yeah. How many classes or like, I guess, cohorts or what do you call it? Like, how many programs have you run so far?
Yeah. Right now we're in our third quote unquote cohort.
Okay.
I want like different names for these things, right?
Yeah,
like
what's a cohort?
It's basically like a batch of students that like basically take a class at the same time, right? I want to come up with a different name. Maybe y'all can help me. Maybe you as a copywriter can help me figure that out. But like, I don't want
I'm useless.
I didn't want to say that. You said it, not me. But I feel like kind of like this idea of professor, student, graduate, cohort, like all that stuff, I want to like shed, and I want to give something else to it.
Yeah, it's kind of stuffy stuff.
Yeah, it's kind of stuffy. But for the lack of a better term for now, yes, we've done 3 cohorts. In fact, our beginner branding class just graduated yesterday, and then our advanced branding class is graduating tomorrow.
Wow.
And then we're going to have our fourth cohort, which will be in the fall, September through November.
That's awesome.
Really dumb question.
Yeah.
Do you need to like get a license to be a school?
Okay, so there's it's a complicated answer.
Yeah,
the short answer generally is not really.
Okay.
If you want to be accredited, which we're not, we're proudly non-accredited. I don't believe in the accreditation process.
That.
Yeah.
School that bureaucracy bullshit.
Hard knocks.
That's really expensive to do, and it's slow, and it mires everybody in red tape.
Yeah.
Which is like really unfortunate.
Yeah.
There are certain things like I can and cannot do, of course, like as a school, obviously. But yeah, generally speaking.
How many students do you take in like a class or a year?
what we typically do, each class, not cohort, but each individual class
Okay.
is around like 10 to 20 students. The smaller classes are meant for like the more advanced students, because that's like when we're doing stuff a lot more conversation based, whereas the beginner classes can be a little bit larger. So far, we've had close to 100 students go through our programs. And then by the end of the year, we'll probably have around 150 at least people go through our classes.
How do you choose?
Yeah,
It's
gonna be my question.
hard. So choosing is hard. Choosing involves constantly reminding myself like if the class is gonna be useful to people.
Yeah.
Sometimes, like, as you know, as like hirers, the person that you're looking for, you might have like somebody that you have your eye on, but it's just a mismatch of timing. So sometimes it's like they might be slightly too early or slightly too late in terms of like what we can offer and be useful to. But it's basically reading the entire application, like interviewing them. If we have questions, like asking them like very specific questions if we have something specific. And then also for any applicants that we are not able to accept, we have to, or I think it's the moral thing to do, is like have info sessions explaining like exactly why they didn't get it. Because I've always gotten ghosted from like employers being like, what the fuck happened? I don't know. What did I do wrong?
Yeah.
So it's like important to me for people to like understand, no, you didn't do anything wrong. But if you were to improve, here are like the 4 or 5 things that I would do. So I like doing that.
Yeah, I love the name. Like, as I think back to my design school experience, there was a lot of useless shit that I, had to do and experience and complete, and a lot of stuff that I didn't really care about. And I think cutting down the BS, getting straight to the point and giving people like the most useful information, that fucking rules, dude.
Yeah, I love that. I think that's exactly why I try to name it that, Useful School. I like that when you combine it into a monogram, it spells us. Like that was kind of cool. Great job, Ritesh.
Yeah.
But all kidding aside, I think the thing that would be very on brand for Center is like to have like some sort of like campaign that we do that's called Useless School, and it's just a curriculum that's we just like assemble all the useless curricula that we've seen out in the world and just post it up on the website.
I love that.
I'm in.
I also like that you said that you're on a mission to help PSC people level up their confidence.
Yeah.
Like obviously amongst like craft and portfolios and wealth and a bunch of other things, but leading with confidence, I think is just, I think as far as branding goes in terms of like helping people really understand that like a lot of it is mental in some ways, and like confidence comes from so many other things, and a lot of it is just like experience. And so I think giving people a real life experience and giving them useful real life skills that like, I think I always say being a designer is like 50% being a designer. Like so much of it is people skills, soft skills, however you want to talk about it. It's like, being able to talk to a wide variety of different types of founders. And like, as someone who's worked at a lot of different places and had a lot of freelance clients, I'm sure how much of it is people skills. And I feel like in school, to Kevin's point, they teach you a lot of like theory, they teach you a lot of like craft, but there's not much about business at all about design. There's not a ton about sort of just like people managing, and I don't know exactly how you go about making sort of a curriculum that includes that, but I do think there is a lot of teaching that can be done that could be more useful, to Kevin's point. It sounds like you guys are thinking about it bigger than just like typography 101.
Yeah, I completely agree. You can learn type and all that kind of hierarchy, blah, 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 on YouTube University or some like great book for free, right?
Yeah.
I think what we've noticed and based on like feedback from everyone, like sponsors, applicants, speakers, whomever, is that a lot of folks like need to build their confidence and like specifically like figure out like what their unique point of view is on the world.
Yeah.
Because that like just makes better work. So what we do is we don't teach any of the technical skills. That's, like I said, that's pretty much useless as far as I'm concerned right now. Mm-hmm. But what we've noticed is if we teach topics like decolonization, understanding your identity, building your confidence, like saying fuck it, like putting some sort of like Zoom background that's truly you, rather than like being like this like specific aesthetic that you think is cool or whatever. Mm-hmm. Just do that.
Yeah, and I'm a mentor at the Masters in Branding program at SVA,
mm-hmm.
and I've done it now for like 7 years or so. And I truly think that like the most thing I can like help people with isn't like getting them better at design or anything related to craft. Is really kind of giving them knowledge about industry, behind the scenes stuff. Really just kind of like helping them understand how the business works. And I think a lot of times I'll just even kind of go through like the process of like emailing a client or like emailing like a potential job opportunity or presenting work, and like so much of the stuff that goes around the making, because I do think that like it feels sometimes very unattainable, or sort of it feels like very mysterious. I think a lot of times I've heard from a lot of designers and myself, kind of going through this, a million years ago, was like, it does feel like a sort of like a gated sort of like world that it's like no one is like a talented or, sort of has enough experience to get into. Right. And I think the more that you can give people, like, you could just knock down the walls and be like, this is how it works. This is how it goes. This is what, portfolios look like. This is case studies of like, hey, this stuff on your favorite designer's website, 98% of it is fake. Like, and like, honestly, I watch students' heads explode. They're like, what do you mean? This is not real? And I'm like, yeah, it's real, but some of it is made after this fact to promote the project, to show how they wish it was come to life in real life. These billboards are actually mock-ups. And it's like, I know it seems incredibly obvious to a lot of people, and I'm sure half of our listeners are like, yeah, duh. But like, if you're 17, 18, 19 years old and you just got into design, maybe you don't know some of that stuff. And I think some of that does make you feel like it's possible, or it's not that unattainable. And I think sometimes, again, going to conferences and seeing designers who are like, yeah, I got a call from Nike, and then boom, here's like fucking some outstanding design work that you can't do. And you're just like, shit, I feel worse about myself.
Yeah.
And I think that's where the confidence comes into as well. It's like when you see people's greatest moments in their portfolio, you see their greatest hits and on their greatest projects. You know what I mean? Like, you don't see the work that people make and they never show anyone, or there's so much to design that's is kind of hidden behind in the walls of design studios. As you know, if you worked at a ton of places, like, and just giving people that knowledge and giving them the confidence that's like, yeah, you don't have to have everything fucking figured out right away. Like, you're new to this. How many? And I guess, sorry, I'm ranting here, but like, how many of your students like are coming to design from like other professions or other fields, or like are relatively new to the design world?
Okay, so I'm going to answer that question. Then I have a question for you, and then I have a comment.
Okay.
So to answer your question, we have a relatively equal number of beginner folks, as well as advanced folks. The beginner folks are looking for like their first product design role or their first like branding role, whether that's freelance or it's like in-house somewhere or at an agency. Typically, folks have a few years of experience already. They know the visual fundamentals, all that kind of stuff. For the advanced branding folks, they're much further along in their career. They're most likely already doing freelance, if not full-time, at least part-time. And folks have like come from places like Gretel and Kodo and Sylvain and a bunch of like really great places like Widen, et cetera, et cetera. So what I've noticed is that different levels generally have like different curricula that they need to be exposed to, but a lot of it's the same. A lot of it's very similar. So kind of what you're talking about is like how to best like write an email so you're going to get a response. That's what's something that like all POC designers like have like tried to figure out and trying to like wonder about. And spoiler, one of my favorite things to do is just like in the email, first of all, keep it short and sweet, but always end with a yes or no question. Like, don't say like, let me know your thoughts or let me know if you're interested. Just be like, are you down to chat or no? Yes or no? You know what I mean?
Incredibly useful.
Like something like
Holy
that.
Shit.
Very useful skill.
Like, just make it easy, because then like the Gmail auto reply will be like, yes, I'm interested, or no. Like, it's just make it easy for everyone. I think the other thing is that like I like to teach that people should just use voice to text, because a lot of them try to like change up their language like just to be more professional. But I talk with like a bunch of like exclamation points, and I'm just gonna write a bunch of exclamation points. I say yeah, Y-A instead of Y-O-U. Like I say, are you down instead of are you open to this? Like, I just don't want like somebody to like get a different impression of me on the when they actually get on the phone. They'll just be like a Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde vibe. I don't want that. I want the students and graduates to be themselves all the time.
It eliminates like generic emails too. Like,
right. Yeah, so many. As someone who gets a lot of hiring emails from students and from a lot of designers, like a good half of them are like, my skills and proficiency in the world of branding and identity systems, holistic ideas, and they're just like, what, like
written by AI.
It does feel like it's written by AI, and I'm sure that is actually what some of them are now. But even long before AI, it just felt like it was coming from robots, and it's like, yeah, no one like is gonna read that and like get to the end of the sentence when it just feels like it's just, you know, it's design fake speak.
Yep,
Yeah,
yep.
and I think you're yeah, it's one of many skills that are useful for
Totally.
people.
I think another one I want to give a shout out to an artist, Flatbush Brown, who's actually one of our students. And he actually in his emails, like he showed me his email to write out to a couple of employees at JKR
Yeah.
to just like ask them for time and ask to look further at his portfolio and things like that. And he wrote in his email like, "Hey, on our chat, I promise I'll show you my like sick mascot collection," because he's a mascot designer.
Yeah.
So he has like this
That's
really
cool.
sick like mascot collection of like 100 different mascots. So it not only like gives something the reader being like, "Oh shit, that's really cool," but also it reaffirms like something that he
Yeah.
does, which is mascot design, right?
Piques the interest
It's
as
super
well.
interesting. Just
Yeah.
pique the interest in a fun way and stuff like that.
Or
So.
just like who you are as a person.
Yeah.
Like,
Right.
I think
Exactly.
that also
Exactly.
is something that people don't think about a ton, and something that I talk about. It's like you hire people not just because of their skills and talents and how useful they will be for your business. It's like I spend so much time with people, and yes, of course, Kevin and I talk about, you know, our brands and names and writing and da 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 da. But like this podcast is a good example. This is like us talking about the things that we talk about outside of the work that we talk about, which is like you have to work with these people and you basically are surrounded by them every day. You spend so much time with them. So it's like to show them like, hey, I'm a person that likes movies or mascots or collectible toys or sneakers or whatever it is. It's like, cool, that person and I could get along and spend time together.
Yep.
And also make things together.
Yep,
Like
absolutely.
that's it's such a like simple concept, but again, it's like some of those things that people just think they're like, oh, if I'm the best fucking designer in the world, I'll get hired. And yes, of course, that's a part of it. But if you're the best fucking designer and that's all you are, it's like I don't know. Yeah, there may be some companies out there that just want that, but there are a lot of companies that, like mine, are thinking about culture. They're thinking about people, and they're thinking about building a team. And those team need to have personalities,
Yep.
and personalities matter. So
Right.
let your personality show in your emails.
Totally.
And I think that's something that like is very useful.
Question for you.
Yeah.
Going back to the SVA thing,
Yeah.
has there been a time where you've kind of just gone off the cuff? You just got a question from a student or something, and you're like, all right, drop all the curriculum. Let me just teach this thing really, really quickly.
So I'm a mentor, so I'm not a teacher.
Okay.
So
Got
there
you.
is no curriculum. It is quite open for me. And so I asked them like, hey, like, how can I become useful for you?
Sure.
Pun intended there. But it's like, it is sort of a lot of times I do completely go off script and they're just like, hey, can you show me a deck that you present to a client? Or like, hey, we have a pitch tomorrow. And I'll be like, do you want to see it? Or they'll be like, hey, can you take a look at my portfolio and give me your feedback and some like more things? Or sometimes it's like, hey, I'm working on this project at school. Like, what do you think about this thing that I'm building?
Yeah.
Or stuff like that. So it's quite loose. And I like that about it because it's like, yeah, I can sometimes spend a week on just email writing.
Right.
And quite literally just be like, hey, here's example emails that I've sent or example emails that like that can help you in knocking down the walls.
Right,
Like I think
right,
that to
right.
me is the most beneficial thing that I could do, which is like make it feel less like an impossible task or something that's like magic and be like, hey, this is like quite literally how it's done.
When you're, I'm really curious. I'm sure you have an opinion on it. Maybe you do too. Like when you all look at applicants for center,
Yeah.
like what are like the common things that like you are like common gripes that you're seeing?
I don't
like,
look at applicants.
or like
Kevin
what,
doesn't look it up.
but also on the conversely, can you give some shout outs to like some designers that you just like want to give a shout out to that you're like, oh, I loved my interview with them, or I loved this specific thing that they did,
Yeah.
and therefore they got hired.
Yeah, no. I mean, Kevin. You want to talk about Kevin's interview?
Oh, case
Yeah,
exhibit
yeah,
A.
yeah. we can go with me.
Exactly. So Kevin. So a lot of my team has been built through Working Not Working.
Okay.
So shout out to Justin and Adam. And
Very useful platform.
very useful platform for me. Those are friends of mine, and like something I didn't really use as I was never really a freelancer. I've talked about this a little bit on the show, so I don't want to go too far into it. But like a lot of my team early days, not quite so much like once we, not in like employees like 7 through 12 as much as like 1 through 5, 6, 7, right? We're basically just like going on Working Not Working and putting out job postings and finding people. And of course, like being a good designer and stuff like that is like table stakes to a certain extent, right? You're looking at work and you're like, can this person do work at the level in which we need to do, right? Whatever.
I don't think I was able to do center quality work at
But-
that time.
But which is a good example of why Kevin like maybe wasn't. He was pretty fresh out of college.
You were like left of center.
He was left of center.
Okay, gotcha.
But his profile had this incredible photo in which Kevin is wearing this like denim shirt and he's got really long hair and it's sort of like it's The Rock, right? Is a reference to The Rock?
It was turtleneck with a gold chain with the long hair.
Yeah.
It was,
Yeah.
I don't know. It's just a solid look.
It was a really good look. And then his actual bio said, "If you got a problem, I'll solve it."
Yo, I'll solve it.
Yo, I'll solve it, which obviously Vanilla Ice reference.
Yeah.
And so I don't know what it was about it, but that's
the
was
one.
it was a certain amount of energy from that photo and that sort of like I'm down to solve problems attitude that I was like, yo, this guy, like I don't necessarily know like if it's about like making design as much as like and this was for an internship, so it's a little less like table stakes of like, oh, this person's got to like build this brand identity system tomorrow because we have this pitch. It was more like someone to like bring in and talk to. And Kevin famously walked in the door and like he was that when you okay, sorry, you were wearing denim on denim.
Yeah, that's when I had the denim on denim.
Yeah, he had the black turtleneck in the photo and he just kind of walked in like he already worked at center. He was just like kind of like walked in very sort of like comfortable and became just like part of the team in the first interview. And I just was like, oh, I really like this kid. He's got a good vibe. He's got a good energy. He feels ambitious. He feels like obviously he's got a style and a personality that's his own. And some of the things that we were into were like, we both are sports fans. We're both are comedy fans. We're both food fans and things like that. And I was like, cool. Like we have common interests.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's a good example of like, as much as I'm looking for designers and portfolios and things, I'm also looking for people.
Yeah.
And I felt like he was like a good human that like, and part of it was like thinking about center making content quite literally and how we can make content together, whether it's a video show, podcast, etc.
Yeah.
And that's really what.
Yeah, and that's how I set up my portfolio, is like kind of just like the fun projects I did in school that like I was really pumped about and wanted to talk about. And like I kind of was striking out in my early days of like job finding because I don't know, I was like probably applying to the wrong places and like I was showing the work that I wanted to do, which maybe wasn't being received by, you know, some of the people that I was banging on the door for. But yeah, it all worked out.
And I guess the sort of two things like takeaways there, it's like attitude over skills.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's something that I was taught early on in my career. That's like, if you have a positive attitude and you're like, I'm going to quite literally like solve problems or I'm down to like figure things out, like that's so much more useful than like someone that's like, I'm an expert, give me a job and I'll make a perfect design for you and I'll hand it to you on a platter. Like I like people that are like, want to figure things out and just like have a good positive attitude. That's always been something that's like important to me. Cause like, again, like I'm not the best designer on the planet. I never claimed to be. I'm not like, you know, like LeBron James level skill. It's like you got to work hard and like care deeply about what you do. And that to me is like what makes great designers and great, you know, people, employees. And then personality. It's like I want personalities and like, yeah, maybe some, you know, studio down the block or some studio that just like wants like, you know, people that are just like keep a perfectly clean desk and build like perfect brand identity systems. It's like, that's great, but and that's their sort of thing. It's like I have always tried to be a designer that's like leads with personality, humanity, and like humor at times. And that to me is sort of like what has led to any success that I've had is like I say people like to work with center more for the people than they do for the work.
Mm-hmm.
The work has obviously got to deliver on their business needs and identity issues or challenges and things like that. But it's like I want a team that's like, oh, I worked with center and we had the best time. We enjoyed like going to dinners together and like moments that weren't just only about the work. And ironically, a lot of that comes from my experience working with Wyatt and Kennedy and working with Collins and working with other agencies at Coke that I felt like we had great relationships with. And I wanted our team to be people with personalities and positive attitudes and that also make great things.
Yeah.
So
got it.
That's what I look for. Obviously, you know, other things like, you know, taste and, you know, other ability or, you know, intelligence and things like that, like are all part of like how I look at portfolios and things like that, or what I'm looking for for people. But it really starts with attitude and like personality.
Yeah. I love that.
Yeah. And people like, again, it's just like
absolutely.
human people.
Yeah.
Like I without saying like people hire designers, of course they got to make things, but I feel like so many people are so focused on being the world's greatest, most technical graphic designer, thinking that that's going to get them everything they want in their career. And I just don't think that's what it is.
Yeah. I love that. And I think also something, well, first of all, I love that you're wearing a chain to pay homage to
to Kevin. Yeah,
to Kevin.
Yeah. I need to grow out my hair.
I love that. And then secondly, I think the taste, I know you kind of breezed very quickly over that.
Yeah, it's on the list.
That's an important one. I think I'm always curious, like, what if I'm hiring people, like, what are they watching, reading, what books are they like being exposed to, what artists are they digging, because that's the stuff that they might pull inspiration from for potential work, and like that's really interesting to me. I don't want to just see your book or your case studies or whatever. I also want to see like what you're up to.
Yeah,
because if I'm just getting a bunch of people who are just on the standard branding blogs, that's going to potentially create a different type of designer than if they're going out and looking at something different. So
I would say, like, if you to design for people, you have to understand people, and to understand people, you need to understand culture and like what people are into. And that's my excuse for watching hundreds of documentaries on Netflix and like watching,
it's a business expense.
Yeah, no, it's really important that I watch all 66 episodes of Love Island every season, to really understand people and culture and dynamics. But like, I do think that's important to like. Kevin and I, we often talk about, The Bear, or whatever, fucking Idol. Like, again, that's what this show is based on, is like our interests outside of design.
Yeah.
And I think those things do bleed into what we make. And it's funny, actually, this show has been interesting in that way, where like we'll talk about something on the show, be like, oh, this brand did this, or we're talking about this thing on the show, and the sort of Zazafication of this, or and then like all of a sudden I'll bring it up in a meeting, or it'll come up in something that we're making, talking about Logan Paul's prime. Like, I don't know if I would that type of thinking about brands and like then does kind of find its way into the work that we make. So all of that to say, it's a huge part of what we look for. I dig it. Is taste and culture and being curious about those kind of things.
Totally.
Yep. What are some of your big wins, like with the Useful School?
I think one of the big wins has been when I did my first like exit survey, right? Mm-hmm. Like exit, like interview type of thing. Like, hey, how'd you feel at the end of this? That type of thing. Most, if not all, and every single cohort has said that they feel more confident and less imposter syndrome, which I fucking love. That's really important, because once that is kind of addressed and people are feeling really good and comfortable in their own intersectionality, the rest of the dominoes just fall. Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah. So I think that's like a huge one. I think the other one is just like seeing people like get gigs, getting promoted at places, those types of things. Awesome. I think also like having our like sponsors and partners just being really stoked, like just being part of this thing and just being part of the journey. Like, I love talking to people who like want to help us out in any whatever way, whether it's monetarily or sharing something on social or whatever it might be. I think that's really cool. I think also just the fact that I was able to be in a position, at least at this point, where I could just leave my past job and just do it full time. Yeah. I think that is huge. Like, I think that was because I think there's like this common joke with a lot of Asian parents where it's like, okay, you can choose 3 career paths: doctor, engineer, or lawyer, right? You could be anything in the world as long as it's one of those 3, basically, right? Mm-hmm. And so to be able to like show my parents and like my family and just all of India that there's like a career that like I can do at least for a set number of months, right? I've been doing this for a couple of months. Like, it feels fucking great. So I think that's great. And so that allows me to like spend more time one-on-one with people in the community. It allows me to try to grow it, make more classes, things like that. We have like a really cool, I think about a third of our applicants have asked for financial wellness classes. So that's one of the reasons why we came out with that. And then our first week, every single cohort is on decolonization, and we created an entire curriculum based on people's feedback and fascination with the topic, blowing that out into an entire 12-week class. So if I wasn't able to like get to this point, I wouldn't have been able to launch those 2 classes. And Annika, Hans, and Azora actually co-created those curriculum with me. I'm super stoked about the guests and everything in that. So yeah, I think those were probably also wins too, is like being able to like work with other professionals to like help co-create the curriculum, because they're bringing a different perspective, different set of interests and intersectionalities and viewpoints and lenses. And that's exactly what I want to be doing with the curriculum.
That's freaking sweet, dude.
It's dope. Yeah. I love my job as an extrovert, but also somebody who needs time alone a little bit to like watch like a show every now and again by myself. It's a perfect kind of balance.
I gotta imagine it feels better too, right? Like, I think there's a sort of soullessness, or maybe like sadness that comes with chasing like trophies and creating the world's best branding systems. Like, where what I've learned, over my short time of being an entrepreneur, it's like it does help or it does feel a lot different when you're helping other people, like
I feel
giving
that,
back and like
Yep.
paying it forward.
Yep.
And that to me is ultimately what does lead to happiness in a lot of ways versus trying to compete to be the greatest designer, because
Yeah.
that is an endless journey that's never going to be fulfilling.
Yeah.
But paying it forward, helping other people on their journeys, like that ultimately does fill me up with happiness, and I imagine it does for you as well.
Yeah,
like, in a
100%.
different way.
I don't want to get in also this toxic mindset of like, oh, it doesn't even feel like work anymore. Like it's still work, and
Yeah.
we're
Yeah.
doing the work. We're putting in the work to like help the design industry like be like more representative of different like intersectionalities. But it feels like better work than some of my previous gigs for sure. So and I think what's also really great is like people are coming in to the school needing a specific help on something specific, and then coming out of the school like having that like acknowledged and like learned and feeling better about it and just keep going. I think that's really dope. And also, another thing that I would say that's a big win is I just ran the numbers. We have a good percentage of our past like students and graduates who are also like going to be taking our upcoming classes too, which is like a huge
sick.
cosign.
That's
Really
awesome. Yeah.
that feels really good. Like our time is valuable, like
Yeah.
as we know. So like I'm stoked that people are like, hell yeah, I'm in. Like I'm really interested in decolonization. I'm really interested in
Wanna
financial
come
wellness.
back, yeah.
I want to come back. I took the beginner product design class, but now I want to take the advanced one. I took the beginner branding class, now I want to take the advanced one. You know, that's really dope. So at some point, it would be really great to see where we're creating like this kind of ecosystem where people are like going from junior to midweight to senior to design director to VP, you know, and then making design decisions in the industry. That's where I think a big win will happen, hopefully, in the next like 3 to 5 years. We're already seeing some of the folks being like managers and director level types of things, but like
That's
and
just
studio owners, but that would be dope. I would love to see that.
That's sick. That just speaks to like how useful the information you're
Trying.
giving them is.
Trying. I think what's also important is that a lot of people are just like, all right, I want to find a community.
Yeah.
And I want to also be inspired by people who like look and speak and act like me, right? And so like that's really dope to be like, all right, I'm bringing in this individual, inspiring them, and now they have like another person like a lean on, potentially be a mentor, things like that. It's like
Creating
like,
a community. And
creating a community is really important, right? So
Yeah.
that's like another big win, I would say.
Awesome.
Last thing on the useful school.
Yeah, what's up?
Because we do want to get to some topics here.
Yep.
You on your website, one of the things I do love is it says, right from the beginning, it says it started with one person saying you better do this, which feels so personal and sort of like not exactly what other academic websites would say. Who is the person? And let's give him a little bit of shout out and love.
Absolutely. So let me set the context for this.
Yeah.
I'm glad that you mentioned that because our About Us page is either our second or third most visited page on the entire website, which is like super interesting because usually like people like try to hide the story and whatever, but like people are genuinely curious. So I'm stoked about that. His name's Forrest Young. He used to be the chief creative officer of Wolf Allens. Now he's at Rivian, the mentor of mine. Incredible. The
Legend
story,
of the game.
yeah, legend. Story was that I spoke at the brand new conference in 2019 in Las Vegas.
Shout out to Armin.
And yeah, exactly. I love this. You're just like the hype dude for each person I mention.
Brand new.
All right, so let me give you another kind of like ones to knock out of the park. Okay. I was talking about my branding with the Sagmarsh and Walsh team.
Oh, shout out to Jessica. Shout out to Stefan.
And the presentation was basically like half of that time I used to like talk about that, but then the other half was talking about like the issues that POC and queer people are experiencing in the design industry.
Mm-hmm.
So after that, Forrest was like, this is all well and good. I love that you did this. Like I basically crunched numbers in Excel, like using AIGA and Google survey data and stuff like that, doing pivot tables and shit.
Wow.
And so I was like, all right, here's the statistics. But Forrest was like, all right, this is all well and good, but like you better do something about this. Like let's come up. I want to challenge you to come up with some sort of model to address this or whatever. D-Roy, my former boss from Hyperact, also kind of was like, dude, I really dig this. Like, what can you do about it? So I challenged myself over the course of like 3 months, basically to come up with some sort of concept. COVID hit, so my initial concept didn't end up working out. The idea was essentially to create a platform that was kind of like TikTok where you can swipe up and down to see videos, but you could also go left and right.
Okay.
So what you'd essentially do is I would have like hire a bunch of creators. They would create content. around a specific number of topics.
Yeah.
And then you'd be able to swipe up and down if you want to hear a different creator speak about the same topic.
Wow,
Okay.
cool.
But if you want to, but you go left and right if you want to actually continue hearing about different topics from the same creator.
Okay.
So it's basically like this huge grid in the UI where like you just swipe up and down, left and right, and just like try to like vibe with that. So
Don't take that idea.
yeah, I might still build that.
Yeah.
Like, it would be really, really, really dope to do. But that's essentially my idea. But the issue with that was COVID was happening. Very few people have like really high quality cameras. Blah 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 blah. Ended up like pivoting to a different idea, which ended up being Useful School. So I basically took a pretty long pause out of frustration in 2020. Took a pretty long pause in 2021, and then finally I was like, Thanksgiving 2021, fuck it, I'm just gonna like do this thing, right? Like this kind of like pressure makes diamonds kind of mentality, where it's just like, all right, let me just what would it even look like if after X number of hours I just like launched something, and I just worked backwards, like figure out like what was the most bare bones version of it. Turns out I didn't really create a bare bones version of it. It was hard for me to do that. Like I use in the branding, I use all fonts from people of color, which took me like, I think I calculated it was like 200 hours just look for fonts that like felt really good. Like did all the some of the interaction design, all that kind of stuff. It was like a lot. I try to go above and beyond, but for the community that I'm working with, which are designers, this stuff matters.
Yeah, of course.
You can
and
really
it expresses
tell.
personality, right? Yeah.
Yeah, you can totally tell. Like that website's fucking sick.
Dude,
Yeah,
I'm
it's really
glad.
You
nice.
did an incredible job.
I,
I'm glad.
yeah, I assume you
I like it.
designed it, and yeah, no, I agree with you. It definitely tells a story and feels it feels modern. It feels hip. It feels
Thank
like
you.
something that you are building that feels different than
and
academia.
I wanted the personality kind of an expression of me, at least a little bit. I was fortunate enough to find like a Webflow template that was able to like tweak like crazy. And then I didn't know Webflow super well at the time, so like I had one of my best friends help me with that. So shout out to Joe Velasquez and JP.
Cool.
It takes a village.
Well, thank you for doing what you're doing. Obviously,
dude.
it's super important. And
Thank you.
you know, as we talked about a little bit before,
I've got one more.
Get involved,
I've got one more.
Oh,
sorry.
Kevin's got
Before we get to how to get involved,
Yeah.
can you just give us a 30-second off the cuff pitch to the camera?
Oh,
over
Shark
there?
Tank. Shark
Yeah,
Tank.
pitch for the
Shark
clip.
Tank
We gotta
pitch.
get a nice little useful school
What up,
pitch
Sharks?
clip. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's kind of like a little like
Yeah, whatever
Steve
you
Jobs
yeah,
Apple
yeah,
like
yeah,
type of thing.
whatever you want.
I'm Kevin. What's his Mr. Wonderful, and Kevin will be
I'll be
Robert
Mark.
Herjavec.
I'll be Mark.
Cuban. Yes. Okay. Yes, we're ready.
But also just pitch to the camera.
Okay, sick.
Yeah.
Hi, Sharks. My name is Ritesh Gupta. I run Useful School, the world's first online design school for people of color. I'm here before you asking for $0 for 0% exchange of equity. Let me just adjust.
I'm out.
He's out. Are you still in?
I'm in. I'm
Okay,
still in.
I might give you a royalty.
Yeah.
Okay, great. And we've got 5 more classes coming up in the fall. Super stoked about it. We've got decolonization, financial wellness, advanced branding, advanced product design, and beginner product design. We've already have a community of around 100 students who have already gone through our program. All people of color. All of our guests are people of color. We're building a community. We're building the next generation version of a school.
Sick.
Sick.
Excellent.
There you
where
go.
can they
Boom,
go?
something like that.
Usefulschool.com.
Usefulschool.com. Get involved if you want to be an applicant / potential student. Just go to usefulschool.com/apply. Check out all our classes. And then if you want to be a speaker, a sponsor, or get involved in some sort of other way, just hit me up, Ritesh@usefulschool.com.
I
Awesome.
like also secret guests.
Oh,
I don't
yeah.
know. That felt very like exciting to me.
Okay.
Like,
Yes.
I want to see like Ed Sheeran break through the wall. I'm like, please
Just like
let me-
Kool-Aid vibes?
Yeah.
Ed Sheeran with all his tattoos.
Who's that? It's Zipeng Zhu, and he just
Yeah.
like comes in and just dance.
That'd
and
be
like
sick.
he's unexpected there.
Yeah, so fun thing about that is we've kept our secret guests like pretty secret.
Okay.
Literally, we announced them like the day of or a couple days beforehand for the students. We're changing that up a little bit this like upcoming time. We're to like kind of reveal people kind of like a music festival ahead of
Sick.
time. But
Okay.
yeah, it's been dope.
I don't know. I felt like that's kind of something like I don't know, just something that wouldn't happen at a regular school. Like you wouldn't have someone
Totally.
just like open up the door and be like, "Who is it?" You know?
Totally, absolutely. That's exactly right.
Yeah,
I mean,
like, that's kind of fun.
I'm trying to use like different colors, fonts, like different like types of like things to like make this thing feel like super different from another school. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, we all know school is it needs a redesign, like quite literally.
Yes,
And I feel like you got to keep it fun, keep it
Absolutely.
interesting, keep it and useful.
I love it.
Look at that.
Yeah, keep it useful.
Keep it useful.
Also, shout out to both of y'all for reading the brand manual manual, like the verbal guidelines for useful school ahead of time. You all are just dropping
We
the
just
word
like
useful
puns
and everything. I love it.
No, but it's true. I mean, a lot of school is not useful, so
I love
it. Makes a lot of sense
I love it.
to me, as someone who understands concept very literally. You know,
Dig it.
We are going to move on to a couple topics.
Okay.
All of our topics this week involve food. Can't tell if Kevin was just hungry when putting this together, or
I'm always hungry.
Yeah,
My hustle grind set.
Yeah. The rise and grind of every day.
Never satiated.
No, can't stop. Can't feed me.
Keep feeding me, please.
Yeah, feed me. We're going to talk about fast food real quickly before we get into. We're not going to talk about McDonald's, but in our sort of discovery and background check, you found your way into a McDonald's commercial, Ritesh. Talk to us about like how you became a paid actor ? For McDonald's.
I think they mentioned I was like a featured extra.
Oh, featured extra.
I guess, which is basically means you still don't have any lines,
Okay.
like verbal lines. You don't like make any sounds essentially, but you are featured on the camera more often than
You were
most
definitely
extras.
emoting.
I was
Yes.
definitely emoting.
Yeah.
Okay.
We watched it.
I loved it. Thank you.
Yeah. Are you on strike with all the actors union happening
If
here?
I was in SAG,
Yeah.
which I was actually going to potentially be cast in a Honda commercial, and if I joined
Oh.
that, then the rules would have been I had to have joined SAG, but I'm not a SAG.
Okay.
No.
You're just one
we
and done.
stand.
member.
We stand in solidarity.
We stand in
Yeah,
solidarity.
that's right,
Absolutely,
yeah.
absolutely. So
For sure.
essentially, I was at UCLA. I was in the marching band. I was in the drum line specifically. I played this instrument called the tenor drums, aka sextets, 6 drums.
Hell yeah.
Heavy. I was the section leader at the time. And first of all, I want to say UCLA's colors are blue and gold,
yellow?
Mhm.
Yeah.
right?
Gold, Alex.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's rewind that. Blue and gold.
Blue and gold.
Mhm.
I don't know why, as McDonald's, they didn't go to USC because their colors are McDonald's colors.
Yeah.
Like the Trojans, they're the
Yeah.
kind of like that crimson red and like kind of like the gold as well.
Sure.
So I don't know. Maybe they did and they like refused and then they just gave us the commercial, the leftovers. I don't know. But essentially what happened was they came over after a practice and it was like the copywriter / creative director, like the director and some sort of casting agent. They just basically set up a table and they just basically asked us one by one to like grab a chicken McNugget from a fake chicken McNugget from a fake bag and then put it into our mouth and just smile as we're eating it. And so I did that.
Hell yeah.
And
Wait, so it was a fake McNugget?
it was
Yeah.
they just gave for
And, like,
these casting things they barely want to
What was it
have any
made out
budget.
of?
No. It was
It's not for the commercial.
No, it was straight up. The casting was just
This is
straight
just
up
casting.
It was just imaginary. It was
Oh,
just get an imaginary.
Okay.
Shout out to Nugs. Shout out to Simulate.
Yeah.
At
Simulate.
this time, yeah.
Yeah. So an imaginary nug, and you had to eat it.
How to
and
eat
be
it
like,
and smile and love it, right? So I was like, oh, okay, cool, got it.
I could do this.
I was very curious because at the time I wasn't in the branding world, the advertising world. I wasn't in any of that stuff. So I was really curious. So I went up to the person named Courtney. Shout out to Courtney Pulver, who created the commercial, I believe. And I just asked her a bunch of questions like, what is this? What is all this? And all that kind of stuff. And we ended up just talking. I wouldn't say hitting it off. It wasn't any sort of romantic thing, but it was just hey, this is really cool. Thank you for telling me about this world. I never even knew about it. So, eventually got cast. And what was interesting is that we did this. It was during finals week. We had a basically film this fucking commercial. And the reason I'm using the F word is you'll know in a second. I was stoked up to that point, but it was essentially a really cold day. I was really stressed because I didn't study for finals at that point. And we had to go from 8 p.m. until 4 a.m. or something stupid in terms of filming. And it was really cold. It was a rare cold, windy day in LA.
What's that?
And
what's the temperature on a cold LA?
Yeah, like 65. No,
Wow, yeah.
it was colder than that. It was annoying.
Yeah.
It was really cold, and they had already fed us a full delicious dinner beforehand.
McDonald's dinner or regular?
No,
dinner?
it was a regular. It was a
dinner.
regular
nice,
dinner.
nice.
They had these custom fucking trucks come and make whatever you want type of thing.
Oh.
So I didn't think ahead, and I was like, oh yeah, great. I'll just basically not just play drums. I won't
Yeah.
even be touching a chicken because at the time I didn't even know what I was going to be doing. Anyways, I had this huge fucking dinner, and then take after take after take after take. I'm just putting chicken McNuggets in my mouth, eating them. This kind of older dude came with this kind of chum bucket for me to spit inside
God,
after every single take. I should also mention that I'm vegetarian, and I was vegetarian at the time. and I still am, and I will be. And so it was like really hard to like get that shit down. So
Yeah.
like I just ate it like for the take, and I immediately spit it out into this bucket. But I feel like the director didn't really know exactly what angles he wanted or something. We just had to like do all these different angles and all this type of shit. It was really difficult. And also, they basically created, and this is a very common thing, they just hired, I think, like maybe 40 or 50 of us to like be the marching band, but they wanted to make it look like a huge marching band. So what they did was they shot it in such a way where they actually duplicated like all 40 or 50 of us like 4 different times to like make like this big circle, and the circle looks like it's like 200 people, but it's actually only like 40 or 50. So they had to shoot in a very specific way multiple times to like get that effect happening.
And this is where your love of advertising and movie making and
This
starts.
is where the grandeur started. I guess.
Do you play the drums?
Yeah, play the drums. Still do. I'm working on like a live like dance music project right now.
Sick.
Which I'm really stoked about.
You really are a renaissance man.
I'm trying. And I would say like the McDonald's commercial opened me up to like know what the hell advertising was, and then I just like Googled all the places.
Oof.
Then shortly after that, I like got linked up with Biden and Kennedy, and then poof.
Yeah,
Boom.
so I read that you were like a social media strategist, and you started in 2012. So you must have been kind of on the cutting edge of that entire industry. Yeah.
Dude, that was wild time. So essentially, what was happening is Facebook had basically just launched their like ads platform.
That's crazy that was like the first social media marketing.
Yeah,
Literally
it was
Facebook putting like ads.
Yeah, so I was like running with like a very small team, like 8-figure budget into Facebook, like doing like all this. I would basically do like data science, like data analytics and like optimization. So I'd launch like thousands of ads with all these different creative combinations and then see what like hits and stuck with the audiences. And then I would pause everything else and I'd just keep optimizing it and do that over the course of days and days and days. I ended up working like really hard at Wyden, and it was tough, but it was good. It was a good time. I learned
New York
a lot.
or Portland?
That was in New York.
Got it.
Wyden has had, or at least at the time, had like a really profitable like paid search, digital media arm. Like obviously Wyden is known for like great creative, but they also had like a really sick arm of media. So that's the department I was in. Eventually I transitioned to like some other things. Like I helped out with like a few different departments, and I helped them win some sort of new business, which I don't think they'll ever admit, but I helped them do some stuff there, and it was good. It was a good time. It was a good time while it lasted.
Cool.
And then I left.
So what's your relationship with fast food these days?
I just had on a road trip to DC.
Yeah.
Best time to
Best
get
time to
fast
have,
food.
yeah.
An incredible egg and cheese from Shake Shack.
Really?
Their egg and cheese from Shake Shack is phenomenal.
Actually, I've had one of them. Yeah.
Really good.
Yeah.
Really,
I
really
can back
good.
that up.
So I think that's like a big one. If I'm ever in LA or San Diego, like anywhere in California or like west of essentially Texas, I'll try to go to In-N-Out.
Absolutely.
That's
100%.
a huge one.
Do they got good veggie burgers too?
Yeah, well, they called it grilled cheese. So they called it grilled cheese, but it's very confusing. Basically, what they do is they just remove the meat patty and then they just call it a grilled cheese.
Wow.
The trick is to get it extra toasted buns and to get also chopped chilies on top and
Absolutely.
both types of onions.
Yeah.
They've got grilled and fresh onions.
Love chopped chilies. Speaking of grilled cheese.
Yeah, boom. Saw that segue coming
Layup,
from a
right?
mile away.
Yeah, fucking
Yeah.
we're cramming that shit.
Yeah, so Burger King, Thailand, has a burger that is sweeping the world, and that is because it is a cheeseburger minus the burger, even though they're calling it a real cheeseburger, and it's causing quite a stir because it's a burger with no meat and a jaw-dropping amount of cheese. Jaw-dropping.
Well, Alex, the
Yes.
cheese is the burger. That's
So
why it's called cheeseburger. The
Got
real
it.
cheeseburger.
So the burger looks like a cheeseburger, except for there's no meat to be seen. As Kevin said, it is all cheese and has as many as 20 slices of American cheese. As a vegetarian, someone that I imagine eats a lot of grilled cheeses, is this something that you would ever potentially try?
I think it's an interesting social experiment to have this launched in the U.S. just widely.
Yeah.
Like I think it would be
It
what
needs
would
to
happen.
come here now. Yeah.
I think. Well, first of all, I want to give a shout out to the JKR team for the branding for Burger King,
It
just in
still
general.
looks great,
It still looks great, and I would love to see like how this is specifically branded in like with like the new Burger King branding.
Oh,
that
it
Lisa
looks
Smith
phenomenal.
and
It
all the
looks
other
great. Yeah, I've
Looks
looked
so
at
good.
some marketing sort of stuff related to this, and yeah, no, that brand system, it looks really great.
But what I mean is, have you seen the real cheeseburger be branded in like the new branding?
Yeah.
You have seen it? Okay,
I think
sick.
I think it's in the.
Yes, I believe I saw an ad or two that was just like,
Okay,
some sort of
sick.
billboard.
And it
that-
looks amazing.
and it looked
Oh,
great.
of
Yeah,
course.
the brand
Great.
system
Of
is really
course.
great. Yeah,
Great.
I'll show it to you. I can pull it up.
Okay, cool.
Mm-hmm.
So shout out. I think.
You have to go on like some Facebook Thailand.
Yes.
Yeah, here,
Yeah,
I see it here.
Yeah,
I see it now.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, even with the wacky idea of a 20 slices of cheese sandwich,
Mhm.
the branding still holds up.
Yeah,
So,
it doesn't
good
look
branding.
insane.
Yeah.
What I would do is I would kind of do what Kevin from The Office did.
Mhm.
Okay.
Did you hear about this concept of like a second burger?
A second. No.
Yeah.
Okay, but essentially what he does is he gets how many ingredients are like in a McDonald's burger?
Like,
Let's say
Lettuce,
10.
pickles,
tangible
onions.
ingredients.
Tangible
or-
ingredients.
Um.
Yeah, no, not the intangibles, not the love and all that kind of stuff.
Well, I was talking about like the sodium bentonite,
All
all that shit.
No, the tangible ones.
Okay. Probably. Yeah.
8 or 10?
Yeah.
Okay,
So
so
Big
what,
Mac?
We'll call it that.
what he essentially does is he gets a burger, and each time he gets a burger, he removes a different ingredient from it.
Okay.
So by the time he's done with essentially 10 burgers, he can use all those ingredients that he pulled out to create like an 11th burger.
Whoa.
So what I would do here is I would order one of these things,
Yeah.
and I would take out each bit of the cheese so I can make 20 different burgers.
Okay.
A hack.
A hack.
Menu hack.
Menu hack.
Don't buy cheese from the deli. Buy one of these, and you know that shit's not gonna be melted either.
No, it's definitely not. I think it's gonna be super easy, like Kraft
Yeah.
Singles or whatever. Just like
For sure.
it's just. I'm surprised it's even out of the plastic
Yeah,
packaging.
I'm surprised that. I mean, obviously for like the photography, they need to have like the spiral cheese.
Yeah.
That shit's gonna be just a hunk of cheese. Like in reality, like they're not gonna be offset or anything. It's gonna be 20 slices thick. It's gonna be a square.
So I would unhinge my jaw to try this.
Yeah.
for sure. I would try
I
it.
think you'd have to.
Yeah, I would definitely try it. I think what this also reminds me of, and the reason that I'm not above this, trying this,
Yeah.
is when I went to Carnegie Deli.
Mhm.
This was maybe 10 or 15 years ago. I asked for a cheese sandwich, and they said, "Are you sure?"
Mhm.
No one orders that. Like they get the pastrami,
Yeah.
the Reuben, whatever.
Sure.
And what they did, I shit you not, they had a slice of rye, like 30 slices of cheese, and then another slice of bread
You heard it here first. Carnegie Deli did it first.
with a side of mustard,
Oof.
right?
Yum.
So what I essentially did, I was with my buddy Evan at the time. I essentially just like chopped of course unhinged my jaw to try
Yeah,
at
yeah.
least one bite of it because I have to do it for the story.
Yeah,
and
for
then
the
I removed most of it and I just like condensed it down and I ate that. That's
Yeah.
basically what would essentially
Took the
happen
cheese
with me.
home for later.
Yeah, I would essentially have at least one bite of this thing,
Yeah.
and then I would do some sort of food hack to make sure that
Yeah.
I'm not wasting all this cheese.
I think like one bite is like the responsible amount that you could probably have. I think if you housed one of these, it would just mess up your entire
It's
stomach.
an insane amount of cheese.
Yeah.
Yeah. What I do respect about it is it's obviously like stunt food, right?
Sure,
Like it's
sure.
obviously like
But they said it's not a joke.
it's
Alex.
not a joke, but it's TikTok inspired, right?
The
Where, like,
CMO said it's not a joke. It's not a joke.
oh fuck, he did say that, so therefore I must listen. No, it is a joke, but what I respect about it is they've put the right amount of cheese that like to a certain extent you could take one or two bites. Like I don't think you would finish the whole thing, but like it looks insane, but it doesn't look completely like it. It looks like maybe someone could actually eat it and enjoy it. Not me per se, but I don't think it's like I don't know. 20 slices is too many slices.
It's too many slices.
But I think you could probably it's not 100 slices or it's not a burger that just looks like it's completely for show and you can't eat it. I do think you could eat this, but it takes a sick individual, and I think they should bring this to America. I think this should show up. I don't know why international fast food gets all the fun.
And by the way, I just so I know I'm reading this right, like the cost, they had it launched on a Sunday at a reduced price of essentially $3.10, but the regular price is $10.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
That's not okay.
$10 US.
Yeah.
$10 US and 90 cents.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a lot of cheese.
That's $11.
That's
far as I'm
that's
concerned.
11. I'm rounding up.
Yeah. And at fast food, that's $1 million. You know,
I'm-
you could
I'm-
get at least a full meal for the price of just this one 20 slice cheese sandwich. I don't know. I would try it for the stunt of it or the sort of the gimmick, but I think, yeah, I mean, I think this is again like TikTok, like menu hacks, which I do think is a thing where they're like, give me a burger, a cheeseburger minus the burger, you know, with 20 extra slices
Well, yeah,
of cheese.
there's like content series now where it's like asking the deli for extra pickles every day until I don't know, like, and it's just like they just stack up, and
Yeah.
people love that shit.
So I like it. I think it's like, you know, it's tasteful, and I think they should bring it to America.
Yeah, let's go. We'll try it on the pod.
Okay, I wouldn't say this. I wouldn't say that. I would describe this in one word as tasteful, but
It looks, yeah, for me, I'm seeing this as elegant.
Yeah.
yes, even better.
Yeah.
Yeah. This is a beautiful piece of creative. It's an accomplishment, I think. It's just a shame that, you know, again, Thailand beat America. I mean, it's our cheese, you know, it's an American cheese. One of our great exports, right? Is so how did we not bring this out here? We should own this thing.
And I do agree with you. It is an accomplishment. Somebody did accomplish this.
Something.
Yeah.
I agree. Also, I like how they've melted some of the cheese, but not all of the cheese. So it doesn't feel just like a sort of a totally just dry cheese sandwich. It does have some meltiness to it.
Yeah. Food photography. Shout out.
Yeah. Even the regular like image from CNN here. Shout out to CNN on the beat, of course, you know, covering all the stories that the world needs to know about. The real photo of it actually has a little bit of that meltiness and a little bit of that sort of regular. You get those cheese edges, and really, it's all coming together.
Yeah. Shout out to brand guidelines.
Beautiful,
Food
beautiful.
photography.
Yeah. Speaking of Burger King, again in Brazil, we're just traveling around the world, looking at what fast food places are doing this week. Barbie. This movie's finally fucking coming out this week. God damn it! I don't even think I want to see it anymore. Like, I think I've been promoted and marketed to death. I put on my YouTube yesterday or whatever, and it was just like Margot Robbie, you know, a million people fucking interviews, Issa Rae, like, you know how like, you know, every magazine has their content series where it's like 10 things I can't live without, or you know, just like, you know, Vanity Fair goes through their most iconic looks. It's like every fucking channel has a Barbie fucking feature, and they've done a lot of brand promos. We talked a little bit about this, like brand collabs and stuff like that. This is actually one that's kind of funny to me, I guess. But Barbie. This may be the one of the last ones. But Barbie Brazil, or Barbie Land's coming to Burger King with a whole bunch of Barbie pink menu items, including a hot pink sauce, which is another TikTok thing.
Yeah. I don't think it's the actual pink sauce. I think they just ripped them off.
Yeah. So it's a combo meal. It involves a shake, which looks just like a strawberry shake with a donut on top. Ken fries for no other reason, just other than Ken needed something.
Yeah, nice sidekick roll, they said.
Yeah, and a burger with pink sauce, and it all comes in pink wrapper with pink type, and everything is kind of has a sparkle to it with Barbie branding all over the box.
Yeah, they said they're invoking the trend of tween girl summer.
I wasn't familiar.
Which great trend.
Ritesh, how do you feel about Barbie? How do you feel about Barbie Mania? Where do you stand?
I'm gonna be honest with you. I've been so distracted by thinking about what the next barbecue Burger King location is going to be that we're about to talk about. I've been so enamored by that, but
I thought you were going to say what the next Barbie-like movie is, because I've been thinking about that. I'm like, what other things from my childhood that should they hire like an actual creative director to sort of pimp out and modernize? Because I think the success of Barbie, which hasn't even come out yet, is so massive. I think every movie studio in America is like, how do we take He-Man? How do we take Ninja Turtles? How do we
They've already done it.
No, I know, but like to do it in a way that actually is new and interesting.
Yeah.
Like what Greta Gerwig is doing with Barbie.
I would love to talk about that.
Yeah.
I think it would be funny to see like Tamagotchi. Like fucking or Digimon or something be retro.
Yeah.
I think what I'm noticing is just this huge trend towards nostalgia. We see it in like a lot of sneaker brands. We're seeing it with like Amélie Andor. We're seeing it like a lot with Noah, like a bunch of brands that are like doing stuff in the streetwear space. And I think we'll continue seeing it in the pop culture space for sure.
The
But
good
yeah,
old days.
the good old days. I think I think
before everything went to shit, and life sucked.
yeah, I think that nostalgia. I'm seeing it a lot happen within techno and house, where a lot of people are making productions that like purposely sound like
Oh yeah.
like back in the day. Like one of my favorite tracks right now is by Peggy Goo,
Okay.
and she wrote a song called Na Na Na, and the actual like aesthetic of the video is like this old like kind of karaoke like those lyric videos that you see like when you go to karaoke bars, and it's like super old school, and also like the samples and everything that they're using are like very like of the 90s like techno house trance types of vibes, which is like really interesting and fun. So yeah, that's my comment on the Burger King Brazil Barbie.
I like it. Also, number one album, I don't know if it's still, but Lil Uzi Vert, the like Pink Tape, has like a million samples. It's like, Eiffel 65. It has like, punk rock samples. It's got like all sorts of, it's just all nostalgia.
Totally.
And it's interesting. It's like, it's very 2023 to just like go back and look at just like everything and anything that anyone liked in the past can now be just like completely brought back and just reinterpreted in any which way.
Yeah.
And that's just like
That's art, baby.
That's art. And people, and you know what? It works, It's like, yeah, I really love this like Chief Keef song from like 10 years ago. Let's just, do it again differently, but in a different style, a different, and I think Barbie is like, again, a huge part of people's childhood. And I think it's just how you reinterpret it. Like, I think if you just sample it and do it one for one and it's lazy and it's it's not reimagined in any which way, it's like, okay, that's we don't really need that. But what Barbie has done clearly is like do it in an interesting reimagination and a reinterpretation in an artful, creative way. I think that's what like people are resonating with.
I think a couple things. I know you posted on the front and center Instagram of like the RGA tweet of like at this point there's no way the Barbie movie can live up to the case study.
Yeah, of course.
Right, and I think that's like really interesting. I'm generally hoping that like this like movie is good because it's featuring a lot of people of color and a lot of at least I hope that's what I've read. So I'm like pretty stoked about that. So I hope it like doesn't bomb. But
it's gonna be hard. I think it's gonna be successful no matter what happens
hope so. Yeah,
here.
I think. The other thing I'll say is for these, especially for movies, I like to go to like Nighthawk Cinema or like another place where like I know the food and drinks are going to be amazing. So even if the movie isn't like super amazing, like at least I know I'm going to get a good meal out of it, right? So like I just hope that like the movie is just like really amazing and I don't need to use like food as like a crutch.
Yeah, I've heard great things about the martini at the Alamo Draft House.
Okay,
Ooh. I've heard top tier martini.
Oh, interesting.
Just from friends.
Wow.
Dope.
I will say I saw a movie last week and I did go to like just a regular AMC, but it had the sort of cushion, sort of recliner seats. And I will say it's really important that movie theaters step up their seating and their food as, literally like watching things from home. Everyone talks about this, but like you can watch a movie at home and it's not that different from a theater. So it's like, if you're going to go to a theater, it's like, come on, we got to get better than these like shitty ass seats that like,
airline seats.
Yeah. The airline seats, like, come on, we got to step up our game. And I think Alamo and sort of, what's the other one?
Nighthawk.
Like, come on, that's a good experience. And that's a good, good time. And for Barbie, I feel like it's going to be a raucous, like good energy movie. And I feel like that's something, maybe that's a good place to see it. It's like some people that have had a couple cocktails, maybe a couple drinks inside and like, are looking, it's an upbeat, fun time.
I'm definitely going to pregame the Barbie movie.
There you go. Yeah. Pregame with Burger King, Barbie Land milkshake. Okay. Real quickly. Chipotle moving around. Chipotle is the latest story to bring in automated robots to take some of the hard work out of cutting, coring, and peeling avocados, specifically to make the chain's famous guacamole. They've created a robot called the Autocado, which essentially will, kind of looks like a refrigerator. It's good. Sort of Chipotle joins the ranks of many fast food companies. We talked about Sweetgreen, kind of automating some of their services using robots to trim costs and not remove employees. That's something that's very important to note here.
Yeah, it's a collaborative
It's
robot.
a collaborative robot, not to be confused with a robot that's taking your job.
Yeah, don't be scared of it.
Yeah, don't be scared.
It's here to
It's just a
collab.
robot that wants to collab.
Yeah, I have like some collaborative AI that I've been using to write recently. Yeah. It's not
Ritesh-
taking anybody's job. It's just helping me, and I'm collaborating collaborating with the AI.
I like this spin of AI and robots for the future. They're not here to take your jobs. They're just here to collab.
Yeah, we're working together.
Yeah, we're just working together. Ritesh, how do you feel?
Okay, two things on this one.
Yeah.
I think number one is I'm really curious to see if the savings are going to be passed on to consumers.
They're
I
not.
doubt they
They're-
won't.
They're not.
I doubt they won't. But just
No.
like getting guac at Chipotle is expensive, right?
Yeah.
So this is purely a cost cutting measure, right? Which is a bummer. The other
It's not a cost cutting. It's let's call it a
Cost.
profit boosting.
profit boosting. Got it.
Yeah.
The other thing that I think is interesting is that they're also testing something called Chippy, a robotic
Yeah.
kitchen assistant that uses AI to make tortilla chips to dip in Autocado's guacamole.
Yeah.
I think what's interesting about that is like Chippy just reminds me of Clippy
Yeah.
from like MS Word, and like I hope it gets a whole like
Yeah.
personality. I hope it becomes a meme. I hope it becomes like a huge TikTok. 'Cause I think these like different robots, like brands are going to try to humanize them.
Yeah, I'm cool with robots as long as they have cute names.
Yes, 100%. That's my main takeaway from
Yeah.
here. Autocado, great name for a robot that automatically makes avocados. Chippy, a robot that makes chips.
Harmless.
We need to make our robots cute. They need to be friendly,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
we can't have them sort of just be like faceless machines. We need personality.
Right.
And whoever's naming these things, A+.
Yeah.
Because then we can welcome these robots into our lives as long as they have cute, funny names.
What's interesting about the story is you all talked about like, okay, not laying off employees or whatever because of this. And I think that's interesting because the guacamole is really hard to make. They're going to be using that to like do certain parts of the process, but then humans are going to come in and help. But what's interesting is they're also working on dishwashing robots.
Yeah.
And I'm wondering, okay, is there going to be a collaborative
Dishy.
dishwasher? Like, are you going to have a human and a robot like collaborating on dishwashing?
Yeah.
I wonder like if their promise of like not laying off employees or whatever due to AI is going to like actually uphold.
We're dipping our toe into full automation.
Yeah. But as long as it's cute and funny,
Yeah.
it's not scary and bad.
Yeah.
I will say one thing I did really like about the Sweet Green one was that it was automated, but it was visual, so I could kind of watch it happening like a candy machine, or sort of had like clear tubes. My one issue with the Autocado is like, yeah, I can't see the automation happening. I want to be able to watch it and see how fun it is. Guacamole is really important in that it can't just be smashed. Like I think I need, bits of avocado in there. So
Well, the humans are still smashing it, Alex.
they're still smashing
Yeah.
it. So what do? They just like
It just
line up all
Peels, it like removes the skin in the pit.
So I'm still have to smash?
Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely.
That's important though,
Yeah.
because I don't trust the robots to really kind of understand the line between sort of fully creamy like smashed and sort of that in between place where it's like it's broken up avocados but still has
Yeah,
some chunks.
you
so
need
I
some
know it's real.
irregularity.
Exactly.
Yeah, I think what I'm interested in, and just a general trend, is like how can we have AI still work with us in a way that like feels really good and not lose like human jobs,
Yeah.
and put people out of work,
Yeah.
right? And so I think what would be really interesting to hear from these different restaurants and other places is like, all right, here's how we're using AI, and here's what we're doing with the people who like that AI is doing some of their tasks for. Like, here's how we're optimizing their time.
Yeah.
Okay, is it like better customer service? Is it better like what is that thing that like improves everybody's life rather
Yeah.
than just like profit boosting?
Scary times. Let's move to the less scary stuff. Logan Paul is responding to a story we talked about last time. The Food and Drug Administration was kind of looking into Prime's business, and there was a lot of social media conversation about what we were talking about was more about Chuck Schumer like kind of raising the concern that the energy drink sold by Prime isn't clear enough about how much energy or how much caffeine it has for kids. And then another story that was sort of out there was about how it was being recalled in Canada. And I think Logan Paul is very keen to social media and how to like change a narrative. And obviously that's where his brand is born. So he basically just went on TikTok and was like, yo, all this shit is fake. All these companies are talking about sort of how Prime is being recalled in Canada, but actually we don't even sell in Canada. There's no distribution there. So how these companies are just using it for clicks, and anytime they talk about Prime, anytime they talk about the Paul brothers, they know they're going to get traffic. and therefore all of it is bogus.
Yeah, Canada is just trying to ride the coattails of Logan Paul.
That's right. I mean, he is right about complex and like a lot of these like social media driven news sources, I'll put that in quotes, where it's like they just need shit every single day to talk about. And like to a certain extent, they know that if they post something about LeBron, they post something about sort of Paul's, they post something about, sort of TikTok trending topics that people are just going to click and comment. And unfortunately, he is right that a lot of this, it doesn't matter if those news stories are 100% true or fact checked. They can pretty much just say anything, and misinformation is really, it's a problem, on social media. And he is right. I don't think it totally changes the fact that like there is too much caffeine for kids.
Yeah, I mean, Logan Paul making himself the victim is kind of wild.
Yeah,
it's kind of a wild move on his part.
But he's not wrong about what is happening here in some regards. Like if you put Prime, everyone wants to talk about Prime, and in some ways it is helping him create mystique or more story around this brand, which again doesn't need any more fanfare or awareness, or it seems like it's everywhere.
Yeah, I think a couple of things. I've been following Logan Paul, like I've been following the Paul brothers for a while. Just it's hard to avoid them, right? And I think a couple of things for people who like might not know about specifically Logan Paul. He's like done some like really problematic stuff in the past, right?
Yeah.
And if you're interested in that, you can like easily find that on his Wikipedia, but like
anywhere.
I think what's interesting about his response, and what I wish he had said, and I probably would have respected him just a little bit for, is if he had said, hey, this is an ongoing investigation. We're trying to figure out how this got into the hands of consumers in Canada, blah, 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 rather than being like a victim, right?
Yeah.
I think what's interesting about and ironic about the situation that they're in is that he and KSI have like created the hype around this. Like it's very much a human made like thing that they've done to like build hype. And I think what's interesting, and I read this story recently where Prime is so popular amongst like certain like kids, particularly teenage boys, that they actually like want to just carry around the Prime water bottle and just fill it up with water. They're not even actually drinking the actual thing. So I'm wondering if people are actually even just drinking this stuff, or if they actually just want that clout that comes. It like kind of reminds me of like what teenage boys used to do a few years ago, where they would just be head to toe Supreme or head to toe Bape, right? And I think they're just like finding this next thing that they're like lashing onto. But I think I would just have loved to see like Logan Paul respond in like a much more like dignified way, where it was like a little bit more clear, like more from a legal perspective, right? Because it sounds like he's kind of like a loose cannon with like no PR awareness. They should just say like how like this is an ongoing thing. We're trying to figure it out. Because I mean, I looked on LinkedIn. There's like over 182. There's like 182 employees on LinkedIn that that work for Prime / work for their parent company, Congo Brands. Plus apparently they're going to be opening up a huge 500 person facility or something soon as well to manufacture this stuff. So like they have employees. They could easily like figure out hopefully like what's happening.
Yeah.
I think you bring up a lot of good points, and most, notably, I think is about how it's become a status symbol, obviously, amongst kids and teens. And we talked about this with Andrea from Snack Show when she was here. It's like, a way to show that you're in the know, just like fashion brands have been in the past, where it's like you wear a logo on your chest or you wear something on your hat, and it's like, I'm a part of a community, I'm part of a tribe of some sort. And that has always been a big part of what branding is, and what it communicates to the world, and Prime has become that in some ways. I still continue to be confused why people want to be associated with these people that are arguably terrible people, and they may be entertaining, but there's so much proof of their bad shit. And I think ultimately, but I think to your point, it's a young boy audience, and sort of maybe they just don't know better. And I think that's ultimately the problem here, which is what I was saying last week, which is like they're selling those same young boys energy drinks. And they may be totally like legally up to code. But I think the like responsibility to not like just say it's up to code, and like kind of in that response, he was talking about sort of the fake media and the misinformation, but he didn't really address at all what sort of people were asking about.
Right.
And instead it was just kind of like, putting this against, the sort of complexes and the sort of news sources of the world, instead of being like, to your point, being like, yes, we are a very influential brand. We have a responsibility
Right.
to people to like make sure that that energy drinks, maybe they are sort of like legally up to standards, but they like maybe be responsible, and maybe you don't need that much. A 12-year-old boy doesn't need 2 Red Bulls worth of energy or of caffeine, to just go hang out with their friends after school. And so,
Right.
again, I don't expect the Paul brothers to be moral codes or to have moral standards, but I think the response is more like, in my opinion, was just like, how can I use this to make it into more content and to continue to get more eyeballs and to continue to go prime, which ultimately will help his business, but I think is not necessarily the sort of the stand-up thing to do, which is what I think you're asking.
I mean, it's just like the classic formula of the past 6-7 years is deflect and then blame the media.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
I'd love to move past that.
And I think what's also interesting about the situation that they're in right now is similar to like other brands like Monster, and even in different industries like tobacco industry, where if you end up having government regulations where it says like big warning symbols or whatever on these drinks, that sometimes makes people even want it even more.
Yeah.
So that is an interesting problem that they're now kind of caught in between. So I'm really curious to see what's going to happen.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it is interesting that like the brand is too high in caffeine for Canada's regulations, but they don't sell there. So I guess in some ways the product must have made it there, or some people are like importing it, which again only speaks to its like kind of its popularity. But I think a lot of the breakdowns that I've seen have been saying what I've been saying, which is like, there's a photo on the TMZ website where it's just like literally Logan Paul, 2 different photos. One, he's holding the energy drink, and one he's holding the caffeinated the caffeinated energy drink in a can, and one he's holding the sports drink in a bottle. And you can't tell the difference between the two of them, even though they're saying that one is 18 plus, which is the energy drink, even though they know their audience is definitely not is mostly under 18. And so I just think it's just like, I don't know. I mean, you can't expect them to be, to have a moral compass because of all the things you've seen them do in the past but you would, I don't know, it just feels like childish and dumb.
Yeah.
And yeah, I guess like, not to say disappointing, because I don't give like a fuck about like I don't expect anything from them, and I'm not a fan. But I do think if you're gonna be famous, you're gonna be popular, you're gonna have a brand, you're gonna sell people things. I think you do have an obligation to be responsible, especially when there are young kids involved.
Yeah,
and I think that's just kind of what you're getting is just like, fuck it, we'll just like turn it into more conversation.
Yeah, and they know exactly what they're doing. Like, it's a very
100%.
calculated, all these types of things. This could have been a PR stunt, right? To get people talking, wanting it more, and be like, oh my god, there's like this fake hype going on, right? I think they knew exactly what they're doing. Like they're calling it Prime, right? Like, okay, you're like now the Prime person. You're like pack, right? Mm-hmm. Like, and like these little young boys who like want to be part of something or be the main person, like they might as well just call it Alpha or Sigma or something, right? It's like this like very toxic. They like knew exactly what they're doing, like everything from the fonts to like the branding to how they're promoting and everything.
I think the part that I hate is like the part where they're like, it's some sort of conspiracy. They're trying to take money out of our pocket. It's like, big beverage or like, well, I forget exactly how they
it's like,
it.
They were talking about big beverage, trying to shut them down.
It was like, the big energy, the big, Pepsi and Coke, where they're implying that there's like bigger, forces at play. They're trying to prevent Prime, and which is again, just like more strategic, very calculated move to be like, don't let them take away our brand. You love our brand. Go out there and buy more, in an effort to sort of like, fight the imaginary man. So it's like this underdog story is like, I don't know, like it. Don't be fooled by that.
I also think it's from his perspective, it's a dangerous thing to start saying that, because he probably wants to get acquired by one of these like
100%
large companies, right? And like do exactly what's happened for like previous brands. What I found really cringy in the article as in preparation for this is like, he says like, we're a quote unquote better for you product, which is like so like brand strategist like lingo. Okay, what's your value proposition? Are you better for you? Like, what are you? Like, I can't believe he used that like kind of lingo like in the
Yeah,
broader.
This is the
public
quote.
forum.
The bar is incredibly low for sports drinks, though.
True.
Yeah.
So
True.
I am thankful that social media has given us underdogs trying to make a business, a disruptive, better for you business, a voice to talk the truth. Don't be fooled by the media. Take every headline with a grain of salt, and most importantly, drink Prime. Thanks for coming to my TED Talk. So, listen, I agree. Don't take what the media says 100% for truth, but certainly don't take what Logan fucking Paul says for truth. And anything that is sort of like, there's no like giant conspiracy boogeyman trying to take down their success. I just think people are actually concerned about people that drink it, but I don't think
about the children.
they care about the kids. And this is what I was saying again last week was like, I think they know who their audience is, and to a certain extent, like there is just they have some obligation to have some responsibility to what they're putting into their bodies.
I think I love that. I get that, and also what's happening like is I want to underscore this thing of I quote think the government's traditional media underestimates the collective intelligence of the American people.
Oh yeah.
And although some people will be fooled, I am thankful that social media has given us underdogs. Like there's like he does know that some people will be fooled, and that he's doing this classic like just trust the American public to like make the best decisions for themselves.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't
Which
know if
for this demographic can be problematic because it's like hard to find like
Yeah.
reliable information sometimes for like these types of things.
Yeah, no, I mean it's a question. It's we've talked about this in branding and advertising is like the age of great questioning, where people are questioning a lot of things, and they do like it is tough to understand what's real and what's fake. So that's why you got to listen to Front and Center every single week to understand as we break it down, and we deep dive into the topics of the week to help you understand the truth. We bring you the truth, nothing but the truth. Ritesh, thank you so much for coming.
Yeah, we're a useful podcast.
We're a useful podcast for the people. Where can they find you? Where can they follow you? And social media, websites. Shout them all out right now.
Okay, usefulschool.com. We've got usefulschool.com as our handle for Instagram. We've got Useful School on LinkedIn, and also like my own LinkedIn. If you ever want to like connect with me there, I'm pretty responsive. And then like my email, ratish@usefulschool.com.
Boom.
Sweet.
Reach out, get involved, take a class, apply for a class, and just track the school.
Yeah, thank you.
Appreciate you.
Thank you.
Doing great work.
See you next week.